Joining us this morning, conservative commentator and son of former President Ronald Reagan, Michael Reagan. And Mike, do we see any Ronald Reagan-like qualities in any of the current crop of GOP hopefuls?
Oh, I think you would look at the field and say, listen, there's a great board of directors running out there. We need to find a chairman of the board of directors. But I don't think he'd be looking for himself in any of them. I don't look for Ronald Reagan in any of them. I think that's a mistake. I wasn't looking for Abraham Lincoln when I voted for Ronald Reagan. I think right now people are just looking for leadership. And I think they're also looking for someone that actually uplifts the United States of America instead of talking down to us, uplifts us. And I think when we find that person, that's going to be the person we're going to nominate.
So, Michael, look at the field right now, at least of GOP candidates. Do you see someone who is uplifting and who is going around and making a mark in terms of how he or she is generating enthusiasm among the constituents?
Well, I think that, not because you're just sitting there in Texas, but I think probably the opening salvo from Rick Perry was probably one of the most uplifting opening salvos of anybody in the field at this point in time. I was just in Platte County, Missouri the other night speaking, and that was kind of the feeling of the people there also. And I think they're happy that Rick Perry got into the race because so many of the others have been there before. So it's nice to see new blood, in the race for the presidency. Everybody knows who Mitt Romney is. Everybody knows who Newt Gingrich is. Everybody knows who Ron Paul is. Everybody knows all of those players. So the new players, like Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry, and what have you, really brings more excitement to the field, I think.
Now, Michael, there's a lot of similarities between what is going on in the country right now and maybe when your father took over. And I don't mean to keep suggesting that people need to be just like your father, but let's take a look at some of those things. In your opinion, the next president of the United States, if we want to, somehow tackle this deficit, if we somehow want to get the economy chugging again, if we want to get people working again, what is it that you see that maybe your father did? Because he raised taxes and he lowered taxes. He was able to lower taxes when he first came into office, but then he began to realize that it was necessary to kind of inch them back up again to bring in that revenue once people got back to work. Is this a strategy that maybe candidates might want to take a look at as well?
Well, the thing is that originally my dad cut taxes August 13th, 1981. He lowered taxes from 70% down to 28%. And during that period of time, that 7-year period of time afterwards, 20 million jobs created. Unemployment went from 7.6% to 5.5%. The total tax revenue to the government rose by 99.4%. He inched it up. But he inched it up when Bob Dole went to him and said, listen, first of all, Social Security was going in the tank. That was the main reason for inching it up. But when Bob Dole came to him and said, listen, the Democrats have promised us $3 in spending cuts for every dollar in new taxes, my dad believed what Bob Dole was telling him. Bob Dole gave him the old, hey, we go to dinner, we have drinks. I know these guys. I've been with them for years, and you can trust them. And my dad trusted Bob Dole was telling him, fact.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when my dad died in 2004, he was still waiting for the $3 in spending cuts.
We'll come back in just moments with more with conservative commentator and son of Ronald Reagan, Michael Reagan.
Now, back to Matt and your morning news.
KTRH News Time is 5:22.
So, Michael, what has to be done to beat President Barack Obama in 2012? In your estimation, what do one of these candidates have to do to show a major difference that will lead this country in a different direction?
Well, I think there's a major difference between all of them and Barack Obama. How it's going to be won is for this party not to turn into the stupid party and start saying, well, is he pro-life? Is he pro-choice? What's he think about this? I don't know. Back in 1982, I really disagreed with him on this. This party, if it is not together in November of 2012, Barack Obama will win the presidency of the United States again for another 4 years. And this is what I say when I go out and speak. Ronald Reagan didn't go to Margaret Thatcher and say, you're pro-life or pro-choice. He didn't go to Pope John Paul and say, what's your immigration policy?
Right.
He found areas of agreement and said, where do we agree? What's the big picture? How do we move forward from here? The issue in this election is jobs, the economy and jobs. That's the big issue. And that's where we have to find agreement and move forward. And the reason the Tea Party, they may not tell you that now, but the reason the Tea Party did so well in the last election, and I spoke to a lot of these Tea Party gatherings, is because when they had us come out and speak, they said, please don't get into the social issues. That will divide us. Stay with the economy. That will keep us together. If we stay with the economy, we will win. If we get divided on social issues, Barack Obama will.
Conservative talk show host and son of former President Ronald Reagan, Michael Reagan, joining us here this morning on Houston's Morning News, and we thank him for that.